Hello and welcome to another segment of the LPE Author Chat Series. I am your host, Kimmoly K. LaBoo, CEO and founder of LaBoo Publishing Enterprise. And this week we have been in our special Anthology Edition featuring the authors of the new release, The Black Father Perspective, What We Want America to Know. And this evening, we have a special guest with us, and our special guest is Mr. Wayne Mundell. Wayne, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm feeling better than amazing. Thank you for having me.
Better than amazing is pretty amazing. That's awesome. So your chapter is titled The Continuous Process of Becoming a Father. And you opened up your chapter with the following statement. You said, I believe that being a father is a progression of worthy ideals. Any man can make a baby, but it is a continuous process to be a father. So why did you title your chapter The Continuous Process of Becoming a Father?
Really because as day one, I became a dad, I became a father, but over the years, I just continuously evolved. And so the father I was, when I had my first daughter 10 years ago, is not the same person that you see here today. And I'm quite sure 10 years from now, when my daughter turns 20 and they're 18, I'm quite sure that I'm going to be developing myself to be another then. And so I just say that it's a continuous process. The idea of, hey, what a good father is something that's going to have to continuously evolve because as times change, as personalities change, I can't stay the same person. I've got to evolve to what's going to be needed at the time. So, I think the idea of being a great father is just it's always going to be going. It's always going to be a process.
Yeah, so true. So true. We have to grow with them.
Okay.
So I want to start off by asking you what this experience has been like for you so far in being a part of this project.
It's really surreal. It's interesting that like last year, I wrote a vision that I'm going to be off next year, but I really had no idea how it was going to happen. And so I'm just like grateful just from, some relationships that we both had just to be able to like have this thing manifest. I think it's just been just an amazing thing. And just, even my daughters able seeing me in a different light, seeing me in a different light, and also me seeing myself in a different light. I'm like, I wrote it and it really happened. So, I just being more mindful of just like, if you write it, if you say it, God will do it.
Amen. That's right. Write the vision and make it plain, right?
Right.
And you saw it come to pass. So that's amazing. And I didn't even know that about, what you have written before. So that's awesome. Let's see. So in your chapter, in the beginning, you wrote, when I was growing up, my parents' relationship was short-lived. And you also said that you had vivid memories of that time. And you said those memories would later influence my thought process as a father. I think sometimes as parents, we do things when our kids are young, not realizing how much they will retain. I, like you, have really vivid memories from my childhood. For instance, like I can remember exact songs that were playing on the radio during the most pivotal moments of my childhood. So how have the memories from your childhood influenced your thought process as a father?
Well, I mean, I remember things all the way. I mean, like 1, 2, 3 years old. I remember exactly where I lived and where our TV was, and like where our couch was, and I just remember all these different things, and how that's really shaped me as a father. I've, I've always wanted to be just present. My father was in my life, but there's certain things about me that he really doesn't know. I'm even not even sure that he knows that I've written, I've been an author now. So like I always want to be this present. Always wanted, when I become a father, I want to know everything. I want to be a part of everything. I don't want to miss any games. I don't want to miss any practices, like the homework, all the stuff that, that, you know, um, like fathers sometimes miss because
Hmm.
of work. Their fathers probably is the hardest working person man I've ever met. So, that's what he really prides himself on. That's what, what he makes him a man. And so, I took from that, but from that, I was present and work hard. I didn't want to miss anything if possible. So, that's one of the biggest things has like that part is shit because there's so many things that my dad doesn't really know about me. Even though he's
Even though he's what? Your audio dropped out. Can you
check.
hear me?
I don't know what just happened to our sound.
Technical difficulties again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but something happened with our sound. I'm gonna have to come in a little bit closer.
Okay. Yeah, so I missed that last part that you said.
So the last part is that I said that I really wanted to be present. Like, my dad is one of the hardest men. Like, he's like one of the hardest workers I've ever met. Like, even to the day, my dad's probably gonna, he could retire maybe 10 or 15 years ago. That's just who he's gonna be. So the part for me, even though my dad was present in my life, he doesn't really know me per se. And
Wow.
so as a father, like with my daughters, I want to know, I want to be present in their life. I want to show them, hey, listen, I'm a very hardworking man, but I also want to be present where I really get to know them as, individuals.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I can remember a time when my youngest son came to me like at age probably like 20, and he's like, Mom, I want to know more about you. I want to know you. And I thought that was really interesting. And we had, a deep conversation, a long conversation until he felt like he knew me, other than just his mom. So I can relate to what you're saying with that part. Are we good on audio? You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
For whatever reason, sound has been diminished. I'm not sure what just happened, but
Oh, no, you're
that means I just got to get a little bit up and close and personal.
okay. So you wrote, even though my father did not live in the home with us, he had a huge influence on my thought process. Between the ages of 8 and 14 years, we lived in East Baltimore. Our block was heavily influenced by the use and sale of drugs. The only reason I was not consumed by the environment was because of my father. My father was super ambitious. He taught me the concept of never being ashamed of earning an honest dollar. And he said that instilled in me the vision of entrepreneurship. How important do you think it is for us to teach our children about entrepreneurship?
I think it's extremely important, especially in today's era, in today's society, that it's nothing wrong. I don't knock anybody from having a job. A job may be able to like help you finance to give you something stable to while you build. But I think it's important that I think that God created us to be to be deployed in the world, not just to be employed. We're supposed to deploy our gifts, deploy our skills, deploy our vision. And then I feel like the just a normal job doesn't allow you to like really explore your gifts. And then just there's something pleasurable about being able to like hunt for your own food, per se. So just having that ability to like use your creative mind, and use your resources. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the money. That'll actually come, but just being able to like fully express your creative side. Like we are created by a creator, so that means we have the ability to create. So I think entrepreneurship really allows us to use that as our faculty to create. Just to continuously create, to explore, to like fully develop ourselves.
Mm, true. So let's talk about being a father. You answered the question, what are the best parts of being a father? And in that answer, you said, I didn't think fatherhood was for me. However, now that I am a father, I can't imagine life without my daughters. Why did you say that you couldn't imagine yourself being a father in the beginning?
I mean, I just just the way, the way I was when I was in my 20s. I didn't have my first daughter until I was like 32 years old. So I didn't even know if I was going to get married. I just thought I was just going to go about my life and just be some rich tycoon. And, and so like, even some of my friends, they never really saw me as like a dad type, but
Mm,
it really just changed me. It really changed me. It slowed me down. It really like made me think about what's important in life. It took me back to like my childhood, like just like somebody, just seeing what I like doing, you know, school is important, work is important, but those things aren't really who you are. Um, there's so much more to us as human beings, as children. We're not just our schoolwork. We're not just our jobs. Like
mhm,
we're people that, that like stuff, that have qualities, the things that we want to do. And so like when I became a father, it just took me back to my childhood. Like, we talked about school, we talked about work, really didn't talk about like who I was and what I
mhm,
liked and what I wanted to do with my life. So, I saw myself in my daughter, and then I
mhm,
had another daughter. So, like that really just slowed me down, and actually helped me and shaped me in a way that, I got a closer relate. I grew up in the church, but I,
mhm,
I I found a greater relationship with God. I found a greater relationship with myself. I found a greater relationship in some unconscious like habits that I didn't know that I was doing. So it just slowed me down to really like watch my own behavior, watch what I say, watch what I think, So um, yeah, I hope that answers your question though.
mhm. Yeah, and so at the end of that question, you said another amazing thing about being a father is that I get to love someone unconditional. Listener, I've learned how to manage anger and frustration. I've learned to be a better communicator. I have learned to trust God more from them. So, how has having daughters taught you how to manage your anger?
Well, I mean, I've had to like read, kids don't do what you say, or just people in just in general. I just found that people don't do what you say, kids don't do what you say, they actually do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm looking at them and they probably are doing some behavior or some have some kind of quality that I'm doing, so how can I be angry at them for doing something they probably learned from me or learned from
Oh,
somebody
wow.
else? Um, and then at the other part of that is that I learned that um, you know, um, my gift as a male, is the ability to think logically and compartmentalize. And so it had me research like how do women think? How do what I mean? So women think more on an emotional standpoint. So I really had to learn how to listen because sometimes my daughters don't want me to fix it. They just want a voice. They want to be able to express how they feel. So from a
Oh,
man standpoint, you want to just fix. But I had to learn to listen, to empathize how they actually feel, and then offer um, fix if that's something that they want. So that's actually helped me in business. That's helped me in like, just business relationships. That helped me in like, just relationships in whole, just connecting with people. So,
yeah, that's a
and
good one for communicating with women, period.
yeah, and just being an example, like, I just feel like it's my duty if I have daughters that I'm not, I mean, I've never been somebody that, just run amok, but, I know that my daughters are watching.
Hmm.
So, like, what image do I want to project? I don't want to just fake it. I gotta be it. So I have to like, it really shifted me like, uh, and not, where did I learn getting angry from?
Mhm.
I probably learned that from somebody else because they didn't learn how to listen, or
Yeah.
they didn't learn the communication skills. And it made me do a whole bunch of research back from when, like, you know, um, there's things that carried on from like slavery and stuff like that that we
Mhm.
still do today. We don't even know why we're doing it, is because that was something that was passed on. So like now I get to live a little bit there. I'm grateful for those
Yeah.
times, but I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I can be still enough to listen to my little people, and then,
Mhm.
offer my guidance.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm going to move into this section where you talked about what are the most difficult parts of being a father. And I'm going to read a good portion of this just because the way you wrote it was just phenomenal. So bear with me while I share this part. You
No
said
problem.
co-parenting can be one of the most challenging parts of being a father. Getting the courts involved, not having the ability to agree to disagree was one of the most difficult things I've had to experience as a father. Not being able to see my daughters every day is an extreme challenge and is difficult for me. I have two daughters with two different women. My oldest daughter was with my ex-girlfriend, and my youngest daughter is with my ex-wife. In a perfect world, we would all put our differences aside and do what's best for the children. However, even saying that, what one thinks is best and what one and the other thinks is best may be two different things. So the difficulty is just learning to agree to disagree, having an open dialogue and or creating buffers so things don't escalate. Talk about what that struggle has been like for you, the whole co-parenting thing, because that's a struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah, so the biggest of what I realized, right, just in co-parenting and just relationships on a whole, like people like, okay, we get out of a relationship or we get out of a marriage and you think that's it. Actually is not. It's actually the beginning of a whole new relationship. And so
Yeah.
some of the same issues that came up, in a relationship, those things don't go away. You've got to learn how to like, oh, like it also helped me to like, but that space helped me to self reflect on how I can respond differently. So,
Mm,
like, with the co-parenting piece, it really, I feel like for me, I only focus on what I have control over. And so that was so freeing for me, is because oftentimes, we can go into a place where we don't agree and it just keeps going. So
mm,
I just get to a place where like, uh, if I don't agree, then I just say, okay, I don't necessarily agree. I don't have to like force my opinion. I don't feel
mm.
like that I no longer, and then if something does come up, I ask myself, what could I do differently?
Yeah.
So that way, if the situation comes again, I'm no longer a victim to that circumstance. If I say, you know what, she needs to change, she need to do what she got to do, blah, blah, she might never change. She might always be like that. So then I'm always going to be a victim to feeling that certain kind of way. So I'm like, all right, how can I, like, if I take 100% accountability over, even if it's not a fault thing, and that's a high level of maturity where, like, when you say, listen, I'm going to take responsibility, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that I'm not going to be a victim to this situation. So if this happens, I'm going to respond differently. So that way I'm free. I'm totally free from, the anger. I'm totally free from, I learned how I can respond a little bit different. And then it's like if you meet with this kind of energy, then that's the energy that you're going to be matched. So when I change, in order
Yeah.
for us to connect, you've got to meet me on the same level. So if you don't meet me on so if I decide I'm going to operate in that way, then it really has changed the dynamic of co-parenting. So,
Mm,
I'm not talking at somebody, I'm listening. So I've learned to like listen to,
mm,
my ex-wife. I've learned to listen to my daughter's mother a little bit more. What they're saying, I might not agree with it, but the last thing I want to do is minimize how somebody feels. Like
Mhm.
I can't take that away from somebody. If you feel that certain way, I'm gonna just listen. Now, even if I agree or disagree with it, I'm just, I'll listen to it and then decide how I'm gonna operate. So I feel like,
Yeah.
for as a man, I think that sometimes we can get in on being right. I'm gonna be right, but when you
Mhm.
right, you still lose because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's about the child. So like trying to win is not a win, and
Yeah.
and trying to lose it's not a win. It's just like, all right, how am I gonna be better? How should I respond instead of react? So that
Mm.
takes like it takes some personal development, and that
Yeah.
takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. So you also talked about what it was like for you as a child being involved in a custody battle. So can you share just like a little bit about what that felt like, if you can remember what that felt like for you as a child? Because I know a lot of people may be in that situation right now. And I think sometimes as parents, I've even been through divorce, and I think sometimes we get so caught up in our emotions that a lot of times we're not thinking about how our actions are affecting the child, but you actually talked about some of the ways that it made you feel as a child. So if you want to share a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So actually, my dad, that went on for quite a while. My dad had custody of me and my sister. Um, and then that kind of went on for a while. So then me and my sister split time. So then,
Mm,
my mom, she stayed with my mom. She stayed, and just um, having to talk with social workers in the courts, and just having to
mhm,
ask, them ask me, who do I want to stay with? Like they having to
mm,
choose a parent. You know what I mean? That was very, like, I remember I hated the way I felt. And then I like, you know, just like, some things that were said, I remember it put my mom in a negative light. Some things that were said that was going to put my father in a negative light. So when it, like, that was a struggle for me when, with my first daughters, like I filed, but every time I filed, I just like, um, I would just I just wouldn't go through with it because I always remember how it made me feel. So I was like, I've just been dedicated to finding out another way to make it work without
mm.
getting, because
Wow.
I would never want my daughters to be in a place where they feel like they have to choose.
Wow. That's powerful. And so this is not really a question, but I just wanted to read this just because it was a powerful statement in your book. You said Black fathers usually have their hands tied when it comes to the court system. I never wanted to portray my daughter's mother in a negative light. I believe the courts make the environment a competition. To me, if that becomes the source and is built on power or control, no matter who wins, they both still lose. That is just a powerful statement, and a testament to what you just talked about. So
Yeah,
now,
I totally. I mean, it's nobody really
nobody
wins.
wins, right? Yeah, I agree. So let's see. So in your chapter, you answered the question for me. How do you feel about single moms raising boys? You said, I think this is an extremely controversial question. A single mom can raise a child. However, she cannot raise a man. Tell us, uh, explain your take on that. I'll say that because that
So
is
with that being
controversial.
said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because what I mean, like, I love my mom, like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with my mom. I think
Mm-hmm.
she instilled some great things in me, but you can't be what you're not. You can't, like, like I can't, in order for me to be a plumber, I've got to learn from a plumber. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that, like, I don't want to, because I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. I think that it is wise, right, to put, like, what made me a man is being around men that operated in a certain kind of way. So like it goes back to what I said, like people don't do what you do, they don't do what you say,
And do what you do.
they do what you do, right?
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean? Like a woman in her divinity or divine self, if she's being her full self, she's, that God created us, a man and a woman. So like it's not an equal thing. Your contribution as a woman is like super, super powerful to the world, right? I'm not taking anything, but a contribution to what a man is super, super powerful. And so this thing that, oh, like you don't need a man, you don't need a father. This is very that is there's certain attributes that because there's certain things, for example, that women are in tune with nature and certain elements. I have no idea what that feels like. I know, like I have no idea, so I can't. So for somebody to say like, "Oh, I can raise a man," you're not wired that way. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't understand that. So I think that it would be wise, right? Now,
Mhm.
can a man can a, he can grow up to be an absolute man, but he needs to see his reflection somewhere else to be his full
Mhm.
self. He needs to be able to see another like what a man looks like, and I will say there a lot of men don't know what a man is.
Oh,
I will say
wow.
that, right? I will say that a lot of men don't really know what a man is. So, like, mentorship, getting around, like, like a woman saying, oh, I just have a reflection. He has certain account, he has certain skills, he has certain character traits. Like, it's like a certain, like, I will say, osmosis. Getting your, in them in the presence of that man will
Hmm.
help groom it, versus me telling you what to do. Like, telling somebody what to do and actually, because I know the steps of knowledge. People want to go from learn knowledge to teaching knowledge. Well, that's
Hmm.
not how you learn. It's learn, activity, model, then teach. Right. So woman
Yeah.
can tell them, a boy, a man, a kid, a boy, what to do, but a boy needs to do the activity, model it, and then he becomes it. And that's with anything.
Okay. That's powerful. That's true. Okay. So another great point, a great question that you answered was, what's your take on boys showing emotion? And I'm going to read a good portion of this too, and then ask you about it. You said, I grew up with the mentality that boys shouldn't show emotion, that they should just suck it up and take it like a man. However, I grew up very angry because I never fully learned to express my emotions. I used to make and carry weapons. I would punch holes in walls and kick furniture. I got into fights all the time because I never learned how to positively process my emotions. I believe that the youth of today are hyper emotional because they are not they are told not to show emotion. You see, what is suppressed now becomes depressed. Depression creates disease. Disease creates disintegration.
Disintegration.
So when you see Black angry, that is an emotion. However, the emotion of anger is a cover for the emotion of hurt. Hurt boys become angry boys, and angry boys become angry men. So I wanted to ask you, um, what methods did you use to course correct, or what methods did you take to course correct the anger that you had?
Well, here's I think the biggest thing, what happened for me is that, and like this probably one of the biggest secrets, a lot of young boys, teenagers going into their 20s, they go through a lot of depression,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of depression. So, in my like, you know, late teens, I was suffering from depression. In my 20s, I had a cousin that committed suicide. So I'm like,
Oh,
you know what I
wow.
mean? Like, and he went through depression. And so like, that kind of like shook me up a little bit. I'm like, man, am I on that path? Am I on that path? Like, and like, am I considering, is that my route? And so I went and I went to see a therapist to just kind of like share like my emotions, and just I didn't feel like I had a place where I could do it. So in my 20s, I took it on myself to listen. I'm gonna go see a therapist, and then I learned so many different things about um,
Mm.
how to, like seek the knowledge. And that's how I got into, I was always an athlete, but I got into training. I got into like helping people. So that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the catalysts to help me shift and like um, working with people and I started reading. I started like listening to like motivational videos. I started listening to like, you know, you know, Tony, was it Tony Robbins? I started listening, like went on like this personal development journey. So from
Wow.
that, I started to see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going to like some different schools, so I got exposed to some different things that allow me to see life a little bit different. So
Wow.
that's what helped. And then, I learned that skill. So it becomes a skill. Like, even now,
Mm-hmm.
if certain things get me like angry, all right, I ask myself, how can I process it instead of like suppressing it where, it becomes something else in my body. Does that make sense?
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, that's great. That's great, and hopefully, people hearing you say that that's the process, that you followed, and that you saw a therapist and you started to do all these different things to course correct, can impact someone and possibly save somebody's life. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, so we're down to the wire now, and so I'm going to ask you. The title of the book is "The Black Father Perspective: What We Want America to Know." What is it that you want America to know as it pertains to you being a Black father in America?
Well, I just want to share like the narrative that we aren't present, we're not available, we aren't learners, we aren't thinkers, we aren't, there's the world looks for what we lack instead of
Mm,
seeing who we are. And if they take the time, like whatever you focus on grows. So if they really take the time, America
mhm.
takes the time to look at, what is our contribution instead of what we lack, they'll see that there's a whole new world that they've been missing.
Yeah. Wow. And hopefully this is the beginning of those types of conversations and more things like this. So thank you so much. And so lastly, please tell the people where they can purchase a copy of the book from you, how they can get an autographed
You
copy.
get an autographed copy from me. It's super simple. It's www.wayneandre.com. That's WayneAndre.com. So WayneAndre.com. You get an autographed copy from me, something motivational that you can carry with you.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful to be a part of this project. And just hopefully that this will be the catalyst for more.
Mhm. Amen. And so, thank you. I thank you for being my guest on tonight. I thank you for saying yes to this project and for lending your voice and your experiences and your expertise to the
Thank you so much.
project. So, thank you so much, guest on this evening. And to our viewing audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. And remember, if you are thinking about writing your book, head on over to www.LaBooPublishing.com and connect with us there. Take care and be blessed, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.